Well, here's one that's a little special. Oh yeah, mid-engined, true sports car. This is a good one. This is the 2023 Maserati MC20. And let's meander around some traffic. Not, what we do in a sports car. What we do in a sports car is we hit the gas and we go. All right, so when you think of sports cars, you think of, the things that come up most often, from Mustangs, Camaros, Challengers and that stuff on up into Porsches and Corvettes and all that stuff, Ferraris at the high end, Lamborghini. Maserati gets kind of lost in the shuffle. It's like a if you know sort of thing to buy, and that makes them a little bit more special because, here in Orange County I see all kinds of cars, and while I see lots of all of the other cars I just mentioned, I rarely see Maseratis. And they're fun cars, they're good looking cars, and they're special. The rareness of it makes it special, but what makes this MC20 is more than that because it's just an excellent machine. Now, it is purely a Maserati vehicle too, which makes it even more interesting. It's not just like a reworked Ferrari here, which isn't a bad thing, but it's neat that Maserati can kind of stand on its own, and that's the goal of the brand going forward, is to just be Maserati. Yes, it's under the Stellantis banner of things, but that still doesn't mean it can't fly a Trident and be proud of what it has to offer and how it looks and the engine it makes. Now, speaking of that engine, it's a Maserati engine. It's a 3-liter twin turbocharged V6, and it makes 621 horsepower and 538 pound-feet of torque. And it makes all sorts of noises, from the gurgly noise behind your head because the engine is right there, to this really sucking intake noise that the last thing I remember sounding like that was an Ariel Atom where the intake was right by your head. So it's really fun. It's really cool. There's big intakes on the side too, which is where I'm hearing the noise from. It's backed up by an 8-speed dual clutch gearbox. It's rear wheel drive. And then it's mounted into a vehicle that has a carbon fiber monocoque tub. That is a Maserati thing as well. Now, they've worked with Dallara to build it, which is wonderful because Dallara makes Indy cars. They make chassis for race cars. So this is real deal sports car stuff here. Couple that with, big, sticky, meaty tires. I think they're 305s out back. And then you have, this one is wearing optional carbon ceramic brakes. It's a brake-by-wire system, which is a little weird in that it actually feels like it's tuned like a race car, where when the brakes are cold, you really push the pedal, there's a lot of travel, and then it just turns into a real firm pedal as things have warmed up. And I wonder if that's tuned that way or if the brakes actually respond that way. I'm very curious about that. If they dial that in to make it feel like a race car, it's a little weird because when the car's cold, it's not the greatest feeling in the world, but it does feel very race car-esque. Now, also feeling race car-esque is the cabin of this thing. It's if you're claustrophobic, this is a tight space. I'm not uncomfortable. These seats are great. They're actually from Sebelt, which, if you know anything about the race car world, that is one of the best names in the business when it comes to like belts and suits and seats and all that stuff. So these are great seats. The steering wheel feels excellent in my hand. It's the right size. These shift levers are huge, so you can find them if you have the wheel turned at all and you want to, they don't move with the wheel, but they're big enough and mounted on the column that they're fine. You always know where they are. The rev counter is a bright digital display in front of my face, and then you have this nice, in a car like this, the center screen is going to be a bit of a compromise, but it's bright. It works fine. It's like a nice wide landscape piece, and it has wireless CarPlay, so you just throw that up and you kind of forget it, because this one's all about the driving experience. A car like this has different drive modes. You start off in GT, you can actually go back down to a wet mode or jump up to a sport mode and then to a Corsa mode, and then there's a Corsa mode with ESC off. The best middle ground here for daily driving is sport, because GT's fine, but you want it a little bit more amped up in that. Sport is still comfortable, whereas Corsa is like, all right, we're on a racetrack, and it's very stiff. And past versions of this car used to have a button you just press to relax the suspension, but I don't see that button anywhere because they've changed the center dial. But there's the start-stop button on the steering wheel. There's a launch button, which is only available in Corsa mode, but just launching it on its own, this thing is a rocket ship. You know, it's a lightweight vehicle, and then you've got, oh man, the engine responds instantly, and it revs to like 8 grand. I think peak horsepower is 7,500. So it likes to live up in the rev range, but steering feel is immediate. Mid-engined sports car, immediate. The chassis is dialed. I would love to push this thing on a racetrack to see what it feels like in oversteer moments, and those are things I'm not gonna do on the road, especially in a car that costs, see, I say that, there we go, Ferrari. And as I've been driving this, I say I don't see a lot of Maseratis. This weekend, I've seen like 5 of them. Mostly Gran Turismos and Ghiblis, no other MC20s, nobody with the billionaire doors like this thing has. But this is a proper, it's an ultra sports car. You know, is this a supercar? Yeah, this might be a supercar. It might be more of a supercar than the current supercars because of the rawness of it. You know, you do have you actually have a really good sound system. It's an upgraded sound system from a company called Sonus Faber, which is a brand I'd never heard of before. I think it's more for like high-end home systems. But Maserati's like, well, that works because our clientele will know who you are. Let's stuff you into a car. And it sounds good, but what sounds better is, you know, windows down, grabbing a paddle. That's the sound that sounds good. This thing is sweet though, and I started to touch on price. It is expensive, it should be. It's like a top level Maserati sports car. I think these start around $215. As tested, this is probably $250, $260, $270 even, who knows? Because I think the brakes are 10 grand, the sound system's $4,000. There's extra carbon fiber trim. This doesn't, I think there's a higher level if you do what is called like the Furosuri. I can't pronounce that right. It's their customization program. There's tons of really cool paint options available. Didn't want to hit that pothole. There's nose lift available, which this car has. And then another neat feature is the rear view mirror. You can have it as a mirror, but you're not gonna see shit. So you flip a button and it's the camera style. And it's actually really bright and easy to use. And I always hate these because they feel weird to me. It's like an uncanny valley thing. This one does look good and I've gotten used to it. And you can adjust the angle in the mirror so you get the right viewing angle. So it actually does work really well. And it's appreciated because again, you can't see shit. You can barely see forward. So it's good to have, you know, a camera to see rearward. I could use a little bit more angle from the side mirrors, but at 6'3", 215, I fit in the car. I have a little bit of headroom with the helmet. I might have to slouch a little bit, but it's definitely possible. This isn't a Grand Tourer, so it's not something that's gonna be comfortable over long stretches. I'm not uncomfortable here, but this is a sports car. It's a grown-up 4C, where a 4C just beat the crap out of you. This is more comfortable than a 4C. It's more aggressive than a 4C at the same time. So this is better than a 4C. I don't know why I'm comparing it to an Alfa Romeo. It's just Italian sports car. This is great. I really like it. This is fun. It's rare to get into these raw sports cars. You know, like some stuff Lotus might offer. Maserati now has one. This is fun to see. And it's fun to drive. Let's get to a curvy road though, right? I mean, the steering feel is excellent. Like I said, the brakes, once you warm them up, feel great. There's an indicator inside the car that tells me if the tires are cold or not, engine cold or not, trans cold or not. It's a really cool, again, lends itself to that like race car-like feeling, which what you want out of an expensive Italian sports car that makes good noise right behind your head, costs you a shitload of money, and is just a thrill to drive. It's a thrill to look at parked outside your house. That's the dual nature. What you want out of an Italian sports car is It looks good standing still. You're gonna look back at it. You look cool when you arrive wherever you're going, though you might look like a doofus getting in and out because it's so low and you got those doors, but just rock it away. Leave the people laughing at you behind you in your wake as you speed off in your Wonder Rocket.